December 15th, 2017. Star Wars The Last Jedi. I want to share with you guys that I did watch it last night and mixed feelings on it as far as overall thoughts on the movie itself and where it's going. But the one thing I did want to comment on is that Star Wars, it started way back in the end of the 70s with the original, which was number 4 in the line of books. And it has opened up our minds as a society to new potential and new ideas, which are actually old ideas. And it has enlightened us in so many ways. And when I say us, I'm really talking about Western society, because Western society has been the society that has been most rigidly controlled in so many ways. And it's opened our minds to some philosophies from the East that we have been conditioned to reject in our Western culture growing up, especially the Judeo-Christian point of view. Now, there is so much to the Eastern philosophies that we could learn from and embrace. And I'm speaking in terms of all the major ones, from Taoism, which, I have studied Taoism for a long, long time. And my primary practice has been Qigong, which is Chinese for energy work. And it comes out of mostly Taoist beliefs and practices. And the Taoists have legends that you can, if you could learn Qigong and practice it to a high enough degree, you could end up becoming what they call a Taoist immortal and actually build your light body to such a high degree that you could pass without dying into an eternal state of existence. And this is the legends that we get from Taoism about Qigong. And the force of Star Wars is the Tao of Taoism. The force is the Tao. And the Tao ultimately embraces the masculine and the feminine. It contains both. And our reality in the third degree world is one of duality. And the duality is what gives us our linear perception of time and space. And this duality is apparently real to us, but ultimately it's part of something much, much larger, which is totally unknowable. And that is the teachings of the Tao. For the Tao itself is ultimately unknowable. It's how it manifests in our 3D reality that we can understand and embrace. And it's stated in Taoism, that which is named or can be named is not the Tao. It's not the ultimate source. It's just simply a manifestation of it. And so the force in Star Wars is the life force. It's the chi, the ki, the prana, the vril. It's the ruach. It's the life force. It's the energetic, bioelectromagnetic aspect of life itself that connects us to all living things and what we would even perceive as non-living things. Things like rocks, a wall, a street. When you develop your energetic sight to the degree where you could see the aura and see the etheric layer around people, you'll realize that there's an energetic aura being emitted from almost everything that you can see. For in some ways, everything that there is alive. Everything that there is energy. And Star Wars has been such a great tool for teaching the masses. And in this episode, and I don't want to give you any spoilers if you haven't seen the movie yet, but we learn some of the yogic possibilities for what can be done. And in the movie, they appear to be incredible, and how could this possibly be real? It's just the movie. But according to the Hindu legends, it is real, and it is something that any of us could achieve if we work hard enough at it. But you have to know you can. It's just like Yoda says, and such a great truth when he tells Luke to get the ship out of the water, and Luke says, "All right, I'll try," and he said, "No, try, do." And that's exactly the mindset we have to have. You have to know you can. You have to expect it. You have to be able to see it. And as we learned from quantum physics, what we could see, what we could envision, we could manifest. And this is through every tradition, whether you call it prayer, or whether you call it meditation, or whether you call it a spell and witchcraft. It doesn't matter what you really call it. It's all about intention. This world manifests around us through the observer. It's when it's observed, when we put attention, when we put focus on something, that's what creates the impetus for it to form. So we don't even truly know if we are all looking at the same world. And the reality is we're really probably not. We might all be seeing things slightly different from one person to another because we have different views of the reality of the world. There is a general consensus, like there's a church across the street. Yes, I could see the church. But then when you ask different people about the church, they might have different opinions on its beauty and structure and form. And they might see it slightly different ways. And that's one of the things that this is doing to teach us. Star Wars has been a great teacher. It's opened up Western minds to so many concepts that are real and valid and are embraced in the East. And so from that point of view, it's an awesome thing, and it's expanding the minds of people to what is real and what is possible. But the force we must learn to embrace, because it is real. And it is what animates all of us, and it's what ties all of us together as one. And yes, and I think this is what they're going with this to a degree. We have been taught to view the world as purely black and white, good and evil, right and wrong, bad and it's just varying shades of gray. Because as in Taoism, when you think of the Tao, the Tao contains a little bit of the negative in the positive, and a little bit of the positive in the negative. You cannot separate them. Ultimately, they're one. We are all beings of mixed light and darkness. That is just the nature of reality and the nature of what we are in this manifested 3D world, in this 3D reality. And it's the same thing in the 4D reality, only it's much more pliable. It's much more plastic, moldable, and shapeable. In the 3D reality, thought and intention manifests, but it takes longer than it does in the 4D reality. The 4D reality takes longer than it does in the 5D reality, and going on up the line. So in order for us to evolve, we must be able to control ourselves and gain mastery over ourselves in order to keep our vibrations of a higher level and to actually evolve into something much greater than we are. And there's tremendous potential and power in all of us. Just because you were a coward at one point in time doesn't mean that you will always be a coward. Just because you were beaten at something at one point in time doesn't mean you will always be beaten in that same thing. We can rise up and we could conquer our fears, we could conquer our phobias, we could conquer any sort of negative energies that we have held, and we could release them and let them go, and we could always better ourselves. The pathway to that, though, lies within. It's all about internal transformation, and that's the journey of the hero of Joseph Campbell, if you're familiar with mythology. And Star Wars, just like so many other fantastic stories, it's all about the hero's journey, how the hero starts out basically lost and confused and not even realizing the power that lies within them, the abilities that lie within them, just sitting there dormant. And typically on the hero's journey, there'll be a tragedy that gets them on the journey, and they will then start to learn about themselves. And maybe just when they're feeling better about themselves, something happens and it pulls them down a few notches back to reality. And then they realize, that the ego was growing, and they have to refine themselves and overcome the ego and become a higher version of themselves, a more powerful, clearer, more focused version of themselves. One of the things that we learn from a lot of different traditions, like if we look at the Native American traditions, like the Hopi, who believe that their ancestors came from the Pleiades. They believe that there was a time when there were all sorts of extraterrestrials and interdimensionals on Earth, and humans intermingled with them freely, and humans were able to see them. And then humans are the ones that fell, and we lost our ability. We kind of became a fear-based society, and we lost our perceptive abilities, and we dropped in vibration. Many times I think that we are the fallen angels in a sense, and that we fell from heaven. We fell from a higher vibratory level down into this vibratory level. And this level has been dominated by this culture that we live in of capitalism and greed, and basically it's such a consumer-driven physical reality, so very, very different than the philosophies of the East, like Buddhism and Taoism and many forms of Hinduism. Hinduism is so large and embraces so many different religious thoughts that it's just so varied that you can't really put them all in one particular category. Sikhism and Jainism and Buddhism, they all come out of Hinduism. And basically the beliefs are like the Native Americans, that there are so many countless different types of life forms throughout the universe. It is written that there's like 840,000 different types of humanoid species just in this galaxy in the ancient books. And it's like, how did they know that? Well, they must have had some sort of first-hand knowledge. In the Vedas, we even know the shape of the galaxy. The fact of it being a spiral and kind of saucer-shaped when you look at it on the edge. So there's definitely hidden knowledge in the East, and a lot of it could have also been gained because they go inside and they've explored their psyche, and they've learned how to astral project to get out of their bodies and leave this dualistic 3D material existence and go up into the higher realms, which are very real, because we are all multi-dimensional beings. Now, many of us might be locked into this 3D reality, and the only time we ever get out of here is when we sleep at night and go into a 4D reality. But there are many that will meditate and go within and explore even higher realms of existence, where we move past the yin and the yang. We move past the contrary energetic forces that create the dynamism that creates this particular level of existence. And it doesn't mean that this level of existence is anything less than a higher level. It's just different. And that's how we have to begin to look at things and not necessarily label things, because as we label things, we leave ourselves open for limiting thoughts and limiting beliefs and limiting possibilities. We need to recognize what we are, and what we are is consciousness itself, exploring all of creation on many different levels. This particular Star Wars episode gets into a few things that remind me of the superpowers or the shis of yogic practice, that through going within and learning different techniques, and being able to control the life force and being able to raise your vibration up, you can develop superpowers that are shown in the Jedi tradition. For instance, now, can we get to the point where electricity flies out of our fingertips? I don't know. I'm not sure about that. But I wouldn't negate any possibility, obviously, because who knows what's really possible. But there are many superpowers that many yogis have been documented throughout history in India, China, and other countries that they've been able to achieve. One of them is being able to astrally project and go anywhere in all of existence that you want to go and see things. Separating your higher vibrational body, your light body, from your physical body, and exploring creation on many different levels. You could explore all of this world, you could explore the astral realm, which is huge, and you could go explore higher dimensions as well as you raise up in vibrations. Other things that are possible is basically controlling your body to the point where you could stay out in 20 degree below temperature naked and be warm. And there are humans that can achieve this, and as well as going long periods of time without eating, actually taking in energy just through the sun and just through the energy that is all around us. There are many yogis that have been documented and watched for 40 days or longer, and they have not eaten or drank anything, and yet they're still able to live. And their weight won't even change. The ability to hear things far away, to see things far away, the ability to even assume other forms, such as shape-shifting from so many Native American legends and other legends. The ability to choose when you want to die. In other words, like the Taoist immortals, achieving immortality. And there are legends of, Taoist priests living hundreds of years, even thousands of years. But that gets back to what we were talking about with the Sumerian kings lists as well. And the fact that people, lived a much longer life, like he even mentions in the Bible. Part of it is that we've forgotten how to truly breathe. And with every inhale, we should be consciously focusing and drawing in life force. And that comes from practice. And you can do it. And you can feel the life force. Anybody can. It just takes practice. You could feel every chakra in your body, and then you learn to breathe through every chakra, where you're actually drawing in life force from all the chakras, balancing your chakras, which are energetic centers that are constantly pulling energy in. You could go forward and backward in time. You could bilocate, be in two places at one time. There are so many of these things that you could possibly do. And it's really because there's a big you and a little you. The little you is the ego, which thinks that we are just the body. The big you is actually, you are a piece of source. You are immortal, in effect. You already are immortal because you are consciousness. Your energy. Energy cannot be created or destroyed. It can only change forms. This is Paramahamsa Yogananda, and he was witness to by location. His master came to him when he was far away from home and gave him a message. And he was just amazed. He was like, "Master, how are you here? You're supposed to be back home. How did you come here?" And it was simply that his master was sitting at home meditating, but he bilocated and manifested out of the life force that's all around Yogananda in his room a body, and it looked just like his original body. And this has also been done with non-yogis, like St. Francis of Assisi was seen bilocating. He was seen inside a monastery, and then at the same time seen outside the monastery working in the garden. He was also seen to levitate and actually fly through the air. So it's more about being a high vibrational being. The key to that is being heart-centered and having a loving compassion. We must learn how to get rid of our negative energies. And you too might be able to fly, and you too might be able to exhibit some of the powers that we see in Star Wars. And part of the whole purpose of these movies and all these superhero movies and shows that are coming out now is to wake us up to the possibilities. Because yes, there is a dark cabal, and the cabal doesn't want us knowing this stuff. But this is a free will universe, and it appears that part of the thing is they have to allow us to know both the light and the dark. So they tell us their plans in the form of negative prophecies in the news and many other things. And then the light side gets to tell us other possibilities as well, and to let us, give us hints as to what our possibilities truly are and what we really can achieve as human beings. We have been brainwashed into conditioning that is limiting, thought that makes us not realize our full potential. Because what these things are really trying to tell us is that we are all born with the potential to be superheroes. We all are born with the potential to become Jedi. Any one of us can become that. It's just a matter of choice. It's a matter of focus, intention, knowing that you can, and really truly wanting to. And you could do it through different disciplines like Qigong or Kundalini Yoga, just for a few. There are so many things you could do. Tai Chi. There's different things you could do to start learning how to draw in the life force yourself and to transform yourself. Shed the negative energies. Meditation. There's so many different forms. Kriya Yoga. It goes on and on and on. So many different possibilities. But ultimately, the main thrust of all this, the main message, is that it's all in our hands and it's all in our choice. And it's what you choose. Do you want to be a superhero? Do you want to be a Jedi? Or do you want to still live as a slave under control of the cabal and their self-limiting beliefs and thoughts? We can rise above anything they throw at us. It's up to us. I hope you found this interesting. If you did, definitely give it a thumbs up. Definitely leave comments and questions. I look forward to that, especially on these type of topics. And it feels like a lot of people are afraid to speak, to the possibilities that are out there before us. So share your thoughts on this. Do you have any experience with any of this? How many of you have been able to feel Qi, the life force? How many of you have had unusual experiences, clairvoyant, anything like that, deja vus? How many of you have felt and seen ghosts or entities, spirits that you just can't explain, UFOs, things of that sort? I look forward to your comments. Please do share this, and if you haven't subscribed yet, subscribe and join our ever-growing family. And I truly appreciate all of you, and thank you so much for all your comments and everything that you do. Take care.